I'd like to call this meeting to order, this regular City Council meeting of Tuesday, March 17th. The clerk will call the roll.
Mayor Wolcott.
Here.
Vice Mayor Williams.
Here.
Councilmember Tandy.
Here.
Councilmember Hall.
Here.
Councilmember Villanueva. Here. Councilmember Biendo.
Here.
Councilmember Winters.
Here.
Thank you.
And if you'll all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item is a proclamation, acknowledging Athletic Training Month, and I believe there is someone here to accept that. Am I correct? There they are. Okay, so I'm looking for Scott Ellis and Justin Segota of Swing, Orthopedic, and Sports Physical Therapy in Surprise. So I'll just read this if you want to just hang out. Whereas athletic trainers have a long history of providing quality health care for athletes and those engaged in physical activity based on specific tasks, knowledge, and skills acquired through their nationally regulated educational processes, and whereas athletic trainers are skilled practitioners in the prevention, recognition, evaluation, and aggressive treatment of athletic injuries, and whereas the National Athletic Trainers Association represents and supports 35,000 members of the athletic training profession, including athletic trainers in Arizona, and whereas athletic trainers are allied healthcare professionals who are responsible for the development and coordination of effective healthcare delivery systems in professional, collegiate, and high school athletics, as well as in clinics, hospitals, corporate and industrial settings, and all branches of the United States military, and whereas leading organizations concerned with athletic training and healthcare have united in a common commitment to raise public awareness of the importance of the profession of athletic training and the role athletic trainers have in the provision of quality health care services. And whereas we encourage all citizens to appreciate the valuable services athletic trainers provide to physically active populations. Now, therefore, I, Sharon Wolcott, as the Mayor of Surprise, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2015 as Athletic Training Month. So we'll just present this to you. We like having a healthy surprise, just saying. So, next item is the City Manager's report.
None, Madam Chair.
City Attorney's report.
None, Madam Chair.
City Clerk's report.
Yes, one item, and just a reminder that the voter outreach election protection meeting is coming up, sponsored by the League of Women Voters at the Dysart Valley Vista High Nathaniel Dysart location, March 26, 9:30 a.m. It's open to the public, and it will be filmed, actually live streamed through the City of Surprise and Dysart. So everyone's welcome.
Excellent. Thank you, Sherry.
You're welcome.
Regular City Council agenda consists of a consent agenda including 6 items. Is there any member of council who wishes to remove any item for further discussion?
Number 4, Mayor.
Item 4 is now pulled. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve consent.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve the consent items 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7 as presented.
I second that motion.
There's me.
It's only 2 and 3.
2, 3.
2 and 3, Mayor.
There's one in the back.
I'm sorry. 2 and 3 as presented. Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll.
Unanimous yes vote, Mayor.
And item 4.
Consideration and action declaring the city's intention to create the City of Surprise Desert Oasis Parcel 11 Streetlight Improvement District. This is Resolution 2015-16.
Mr. Zook, could you come forward and answer questions for the council member?
Yes, Madam
Yeah.
Chair, Council Member Winters, how can I help you?
Good seeing you again, Carl. Long time no see.
Yeah.
For my benefit and for the benefit of viewers, would you just go through what this is going to happen, what this is all about? I know we had a petition from a lot of folks up in Desert Oasis that want this to happen. Can you enlighten us a little bit?
Well, I'm going to try and speak my best to it. I may have my planning manager, drawing review manager, Kristen Tidler, come up and help me with it. She's the one that really helps pull these things together. What I understand is just one of these things that kind of slipped through the cracks on our pulling together a normal streetlight improvement district. Just the in 06 when these were going in, 2006 when this was going in, very busy time at the city. One of those things that just got overlooked. So trying to catch up on holes that happen like that. This is just trying to get it put into a streetlight improvement district that didn't happen when it was at the proper time. Kristen probably can provide better details.
Hi, Madam Chair and Councilman Winters.
Could you pull the microphone down so we can hear you?
Hello.
There you go. Excellent.
So typically when we have slids, they're sent through with the final plat. In this particular case, it didn't go through with the final plat, and because homes have already started, we need to go back through it with the majority petition. So this one's a little different than normal ones. Because a few of the houses had already been constructed, they had to go back and get 51% of the homeowners' votes to move through. In order to get the 51%, the new developer, Pulte, who's been building homes, has been asking residents to sign the petitions as they've been coming in. So now they have enough, they have 51%, and they're able to move forward with an intent to form a SLID. So this is actually a two-part SLID for the majority petitions. The first part that we're going through for today is just an intent to form the SLID. Then we post signs tomorrow to the neighborhood to tell them what our intent is, and then they have a certain amount of days to protest through normal ARS guidelines. And if there are no petitions, then we'll move through on, I believe it's the April 7th council date. I may be mistaken, I can check on those. If there's no petitions, then the next meeting will form that SLID.
Okay.
So there'll be an increased tax for those folks up there with the SLID?
Yes, there will be.
Any idea how much additional tax it'll be?
I don't. I can find out for you though.
So anybody who objects that has time to
They do.
to object.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you very much.
You're
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we move to approve resolution number 2015-16.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve item 4 as presented. Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you. Next item.
Discussion regarding a utility billing update by American Water Enterprises.
Mr. City Manager, are you going to lead this discussion, or
Yeah.
Lindsay, you are going to lead the discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair, as I think as you and the council have had Lindsay give an update, she's here this evening not only to give you an update, but has two senior executives from American Water who will also present to the council.
Okay. Lindsay?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council. As Bob suggested, this evening we have members from American Water Enterprises here before you to give you an update. They offered to address the council on a status update, as well as answer your questions with respect to the issues that we've been experiencing with our utility billing. And I have with me this evening Sharon Cameron, who is the president of American Water Enterprises, and Mr. David Choate, who is the president of Contract Services Group for American Water Enterprises. And with that, I'll allow Ms. Cameron to the podium.
Ms. Cameron, Mr. Choate, welcome.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for having us. I'm Sharon Cameron, president of American Water Enterprises. We're a portfolio of businesses that are in the water services arena. David Choate's the president of our Contract Services Group, who oversees projects like our relationship with the City of Surprise. As you're all aware, we introduced a new billing system in mid-December because your other billing system became outdated, and by that I mean the software was no longer being supported by the manufacturers. We launched the system in mid-December, and we've had some issues. We're here, and it's my second visit here within 2 weeks because we're not happy with the problems and the issues that your customers and our customers are experiencing. This is very important to us that we get this right and we get your customers and our customers' issues remediated as quickly as we can. It's a very complex, as you can imagine, situation to work through, but we pulled together a lot of people from our company. We're flying people in from different parts of the country to help get this in control. We really do care about improving this. We work together with the City of Surprise. Our employees work on the 3rd floor of City Hall here. The residents, their customers, they're getting these bills as well. So it's important for our employees and for our customers and all of us to make sure that we remediate this. Some of the key problems have been delayed bills, formatting in bills, and there's been issues around auto pay and web enrollment. And when you put these things together, it's caused a lot of people to call into the call center. We're getting 6 times more calls than we usually get. And so that's caused people to have to wait too long. We have a lot of actions that we're taking. We've taken Lindsay and her team and Mr. Weingroth through a more detailed examination of the actions we've taken. But I'm going to ask David to speak with you for just a couple of minutes and try to give you just a very quick top-line overview of the challenges, the issues that we are aware of, and the actions we're taking, have taken, and we will be taking to remediate this.
Thanks, Sharon. Thanks for having us here tonight. Appreciate the opportunity to give you an update. As Sharon indicated, probably the most visible problem from a customer perspective is the wait times at the call center that have just at times have been unacceptably too long, especially during the peak hours. We've taken several steps to address the wait times. Some are completed, some are still in progress, but just outline some of the key things we've done. We've already significantly increased staffing up at the call center. We brought in a bunch of additional resources to handle calls and to man the booth in the lobby at times of high demand. One of the issues we have is just the space in the office up there. So we've expanded the space, created additional workspaces so we can even bring in additional resources, especially during those peak hours, to handle the high call volume. We're also shifting calls to an outsourced call center. We expect to have that solution in place by midweek. So effectively what that means is if a customer calls, experiences wait time, essentially in excess of a minute, they'll be transferred to this outsourced call center that has additional resources so they can, again, handle those real peak times. What we've seen is Surprise has, not unusual, but a lot of the calls are between the hours of essentially 9 a.m. and noon. That's when the vast majority of the calls occur. So it's really just addressing those peaks has been the biggest challenge on that. And then we've also improved the messaging. So when someone calls, the automated system that picks up and welcomes them initially as they get into queue, we've improved that messaging to try to clarify some issues that have caused confusion. And so if a customer doesn't need to wait in queue, they can drop off and either go to the website to get their questions answered about their account, or not take any action if it's not necessary. So Around the call center, it's going to take a few days yet, but we're confident we've got a plan in place to really address it and get the call times back down to acceptable levels. Sharon also alluded we've had several billing issues since the conversion that occurred in mid-December. There have been issues around bill formatting, delayed bills, and confusing information on the bills. And all those things drive up call volume, and it really kind of compounds and builds on itself. So we've got a team that's been diligently working on these issues for the past several weeks. We're confident that we've got fixes in place, but we did put a freeze on issuing any new bills as of late last week. And we're implementing a robust QC program for every single bill that's printed to make sure that the bills are 100% accurate before they go out. We've implemented that QC protocol, and we expect to start sending bills again later this week. And we're confident that when they go out, they're going to be accurate, and that's going to resolve a lot of the confusion customers are having. And finally, there's been some frustration over the auto pay feature. We know that's causing frustration for some customers. When we did the billing conversion, any folks that were signed up for auto pay had to re-enroll in the auto pay feature. That was a function of making sure we had accurate data and information and email addresses in the system. I first want to reemphasize that any customers that are not part of the auto pay program, they do not need to sign up if they don't want to. I think some of the communications we've sent out has caused confusion, and we're trying to reemphasize that. If folks pay their bills monthly by check, cash, credit card, whatever they do normally, and they don't want to be enrolled in the auto pay, they can continue to pay that way. So there's no reason for them to be in the auto pay. So again, our messaging is trying to clarify that for customers. But beyond that, we know that there is frustration in the auto pay. In many cases, folks that were in auto pay that then had to re-enroll, if they didn't do that in time, they were forced to make a one-time payment or even sometimes 2 times before they're able to get themselves back in auto roll into the auto pay. And then another issue that was causing confusion we've addressed is customers that were part of the auto pay program, they do still receive monthly bills in the mail. Previously, there had been a message on those bills that says do not pay, do not pay if they're part of the auto pay program. That message was not included after we went through the conversion. Again, we've addressed the software issue, so now any bills that go to an auto pay customer will have a very clear note that says do not pay, which hopefully will avoid some confusion there. So again, we apologize for the challenges and the frustrations that customers have had over the last couple of months. We are very committed. We have a team diligently working, and we're committed to get this right and get back to the high level of service that your customers expect.
Thank you so much. Questions, members? Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, David, for coming out here, and thank you, Sharon, coming out again. A couple things. I understand that this website and this whole software was outsourced. You outsourced it to a company. Is that correct? You didn't do it in-house.
The software, it's a software package. It's ultimately a system integrator. I mean, it's a standard billing package that many communities use. There's a system integrator, and then it's customized for the city of Surprise. We have our own project team that help implement it, and then we work with a specialty system integrator.
And so it had been running in other cities?
It has been running in other cities, that's correct.
I see. And so when you decided to do it in Surprise, did you test it at all here in Surprise before you rolled it out?
We did. There was a year-long implementation process. When it went in place, we did essentially a testing protocol where we ran all the meter reads and the billing information through the old billing system and the new billing system to make sure that essentially the revenue matched, that the bills as produced matched. There's not been any issues associated with the total amounts due, or in other words, the amounts billed to the client. It's really been around formatting issues, some information that would subtotals on the bill that if one manually adds them up, it would imply that the math isn't adding up, but the totals in the bills overall are correct. So we did check it and test it.
I don't know if you know this, but it started off wrong. Your letter that went out, because my constituents showed me the letter.
Yeah.
They got it on December 26th, and they were supposed to have enrolled by December 22nd.
There was definitely confusion on
that's-
timing, and some of the communications absolutely could have been done better.
Right, okay, I mean, these are basic things, Dave.
They are.
Okay? When you had the calls, were they coming to the local here on the third floor?
Calls come here locally, yes.
So they were coming here locally, okay?
Yes.
Because some people were talking to some people in back east.
No, all calls come here locally.
Really? Okay. That's interesting. Even over an overflow, you didn't have them going somewhere
Now,
else?
as of right now, we don't have an overflow option. All calls are handled locally.
Okay.
When we do look to go to an outsourced overflow option, it's someone here in the Southwest.
And how many billing customers do we have here in Surprise, from your standpoint? 35,000?
Yeah, I believe it's about 45,000.
45,000, okay. And so how many of them right now are in a problem situation, that has a problem that needs to be resolved?
We have right now 6,500 bills that are being held that essentially are in what we call a double pay situation. The delays I mentioned in the billing, essentially the month of January overlapped with when the February bill would have gone out. And so on those bills, it's essentially 2 months worth of bills. We've not sent out those bills. Again, all bills are being held right now.
So if somebody, I mean, I actually brought a constituent here and had her sign up for auto pay in February.
Mm-hmm.
February or January? No, January. To have auto pay taken out in February. Okay, it didn't get taken out, but she got a bill in March for $82.82.
Okay.
So is that what you're saying? You're catching up? Because we actually signed up down on the first floor here at the cashier. We didn't sign up on the website because that was a mess.
Right.
So we actually did it with, I think the girl's name's April, nice girl.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But as it turned out, it didn't take for whatever reason. So now the auto pay didn't happen in February, and then she gets a bill in March. She thought, so her checking account, she's deducting it.
Right.
And she thinks it's done. We go to her, and then she went to her credit union. No, it wasn't taken out. Why wasn't it taken out? Blah, blah, blah. Now she gets a bill for $82.82. So now, let's just take that example, because probably about most of them are in that case. They've got bill for 2 months now, right? When is it going to start? When is the auto pay going to start working? April?
No, the auto pay we caught up in the billing cycles at the beginning of March. Besides the bills that are currently suspended and held, we will be catching up on those. Yes, essentially in the first week of, within April, all the bills should be caught up on a regular billing cycle. Anybody that had signed up for auto pay would have caught up. So again, I understand and appreciate why that would cause frustration. That would cause me to be very frustrated as a customer.
Okay. And I asked the young man that was out here with Sharon this question: why couldn't you transfer the records from the old program to the new program, rather than asking 45 or how many people are signed up for auto pay?
There's about 10,000 originally, and right now we're at 6,000 have re-enrolled.
Okay, so why ask 10,000 people to go through all that?
It's very important we have accurate contact information in terms of email addresses, that type of thing. So if there are any changes to their account, a lot of the information that was in the previous system was years and years old. We didn't have very many email addresses, and the email addresses that we did have, there was no way to confirm that they were still valid. So.
Okay, it just seems like there could have been a better way to do that. But what about the $1.80 convenience fee? That's another issue.
The $1.80 convenience fee applies when customers pay one time by credit card.
Okay, most people aren't used to that. So why are you doing it, and is it going to go away, or is that going to continue? So in other words, if you pay by credit card, because we had some people pay by credit card because they couldn't get on auto pay.
Yeah.
So they were charged $1.80 because they used their credit card to pay the bill when they wanted it on auto pay.
We're going to go back and review those folks that specific situation you're describing applies to, folks that were in auto pay and then ultimately had to re-enroll and then had to do possibly a one-time payment by credit card and got charged that $1.80. I would say, it is a convenience charge for other customers, whether they want to pay check. Auto pay has no associated convenience fee. Cash, there are a variety of other ways they can pay, with credit card just being one option. But for those customers that do want to do one-time payments on an ongoing basis, there's the convenience fee, which represents the, the cost that is charged by the credit card vendor ultimately.
Okay, that's all I got. Thank
Councilmember Winters.
Thank you, Mayor. And I really appreciate you being here. I know how you feel, because when I get in front of my constituents and I have to answer the hard questions too, I can appreciate your appearance, and I thank you for being here. This whole thing has been just really a big disaster. I think you'll agree with that. If you were in my shoes and heard some emails and phone calls that I was getting from people in my district, they were really, really upset. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions I had was one that Councilman Hall asked you, why you just take everybody and move it over to the new system instead of asking each of them to reapply to the new system. I don't understand the rationality in that. One of my constituents, who is very analytical, like Councilman Hall, wrote out a whole thing for me, and I'm just going to ask you verbatim the answer to some of these questions. Now, I got the booklet in the mail. Everybody in this room probably got one of these booklets, and this is what he's talking about, because he received this letter also. And he says, your letter dated February 13th to customers list primary improvements to restore quality customer service, improve customer support and responsiveness for calls, emails, and walk-ins and service, added staff and increased working hours so you can better reach us using one of the following methods. First one is A, phone. It doesn't list the hours. That was one of his concerns. In person is another option, City Hall. So I went there assuming there would be added customer service staff, that I would be able to discuss my issues with one. I found one cashier with a long line, and I left. It says, number 3 is set up an online account with 4 easy steps. Easy steps in quotation marks. There is no web address. It says, I looked everywhere on the 6 pages for a web address. There was an address in the upper right-hand corner. I went to that address, but I could not find the first page of the screen prints. So I clicked on Contact Us for assistance. On the page that came up, there were 15 state contracts listed for customer service, but none for Arizona. There's none on this list. So, and I'm happy you're addressing the problems in the situation. I know you've paid for it in public ridicule, I'm sure. Some of the questions I have now, I thought I was exempt from this problem because I do not do automatic payments. If somebody wants a check from me, I'm going to write the check. I'm kind of old-fashioned that way. However, I got my bill, and I found out, hey, it's not so bad. I wasn't exempt after all, because I paid my bill in April, and for $24.78. So my balance should have been 0. I get a bill, and it's $49.56. A nice surprise. So I hope that gets straightened out, and I'm sure someday it will. Hopefully, the sooner the better. The other question I had for you, I noticed your mailing address is different now. It used to be LA. Now it's Surprise. Can you tell me why that change was there? Why you made that change?
We have a locksbox service in California. That's a detailed question. I don't know why that would have changed. We do have, I think it may depend on the billing route. So I can find out the information.
You don't know why you changed it?
No.
So
Nope.
you transferred the Target to Surprise. You took it away from LA. Give it back to LA. Give the Target back to LA. Anyway, those are some of the problems that I've had, and I've had numerous phone calls, and because I'm at a loss to explain what the problem was, and I think most of the problem is because of the automatic withdrawal. But as you can see, that's not the only ones that were affected. Okay, thanks again for being here, Owen.
I appreciate that. One thing I didn't mention is we have extended hours. I forgot to mention that in terms of the call time. We've extended hours over the weekend as well, and now we're open on
So what
on
are
Sunday.
your call-in hours?
The calling hours, Monday through Friday, we're open till I think 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
8 to 10?
Yeah, Saturday similar, and then Sunday we're open for 8 hours on Sundays.
Okay.
And then with regards to the lobby, we did have long wait times in the lobby We've tried to always have, anytime that the line has been extended, try to get a second person down in the booth to help resolve
One
those issues.
more question, if I may. The people working down in our lobby, are they working for the city of Surprise, or are they working for you?
They're working for us.
And how many
They're
employees?
representatives, of the city.
How many employees you have down there?
They're all customer service reps that work on our overall team, so they rotate in and out of the lobby. But anytime the lobby's open, we have at least one. If there's a line, we'll have two down in the lobby.
Part of the problem, at least when I was down in the lobby one day, was one cashier there, and the line was out the door.
Yeah, and so we've always tried to, anytime the line is increased, that's been one of the improvements we've tried to make, is add a second person, make sure we get the.
I don't know what happened to that second person that day, maybe out to lunch, but that line was out the door, one person there. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Councilwoman Villanueva.
I just want to thank you for being here. I did have some concerns about my bill, but this answers my question, and I appreciate that you're here to answer some of those questions. I know a lot of people are concerned, but as far as I'm concerned, it answered my question as to why I get double bills.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Tandy.
Thank you. I basically want to talk about the solution. I do like the idea that you're going to add additional outsourcing call center, but some of the comments I'm getting back, even the people that were being called before this, when they finally got a hold of them, it took a long time, like 45 minutes of talking back and forth, and not a lot of knowing what's what and how it works, or I don't know if I can do anything. So if you do go down that path, I would hope that there'd be lots of training and some scripts that are concrete, that work every time.
Yes, sir.
So that we don't have to spend lots of time. If you can't solve the problem immediately with this script, let's figure out a way to then escalate it then, so that we don't tie the lines up as much. So I think that's a positive, as long as it's carried out correctly. Then I wanted to go into, I've identified 4 different key areas, and my guess is there's probably a lot more different, from a process standpoint or coding standpoint, different issues within each one. So can we go one by one? What kind of time frame do you anticipate that it'll be solved? Let's start off with the one that we did talk about. I think you were saying the auto pay. What kind of issues do we anticipate on that, or is there an easier one you want to tackle first?
No, I'll tackle the auto pay.
Okay.
Right now, folks can still go onto the website and register for the auto pay. Mm-hmm. We're trying to improve essentially links and folks' ability to get to that website. I agree there was some confusing communications in terms of how they could get to that website. Trying to make that.
Some of it's communication, but the programming that needs to be done, do you have a fix for that yet, and how far out is that?
Those issues we believe are resolved in terms of delays in timing of folks signing up. There will always be potentially some delay in terms of if someone signs up, and then a payment is applied that they wrote a check immediately for, in terms of when the cash is ultimately applied.
Okay.
But for the most part, we believe those issues.
Let's move on to the next one. Hopefully this is easy. Delayed bill. And I was kind of like, I talked to the city manager and go, yeah, I'm getting a lot of comments. We had our talk Thursday, and from constituents with problems, and I said, I don't have a problem yet. Friday I got my bill.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So when I go through it, and luckily I have online banking, and I can see that, yes, I probably owe the double payment, mm-hmm. But what is kind of making me kind of concerned is you don't have a regular schedule of when the bills go out. Mm-hmm. So, I pay the bill right away.
Right.
When it's due. Will that be, at what point will that be a non-delayed bill on a regular routine time frame?
Any bills that are delayed, that a customer receives, they'll still have the full amount of time to pay it. They won't have a truncated time in terms of when the payment is due.
Right. But how long until we get to the point where it's going to be on the 15th of every month for whichever customer it is?
Yeah, we've got a relatively small subset right now that are still delayed, because again, we had caught up on billing by March 6th. Now we've been holding some bills for about the last week.
Is that the 6,500?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's about 14% or about 1 out of every 6.
Right, and then any bills that have not been issued over the last week. So that represents about another 16,000 bills, but those bills are only a couple days delayed.
So
by the time we start billing at the end of this week.
we think that, do you think that on April, going forward, we'll have the same day of every month for the billing, or?
I would say by May. So any folks that have potentially delayed bills going out right now, we may delay their next billing cycle slightly a few days to try to essentially split the difference between now and the May billing cycle. So they're not having, if it goes out now 3 weeks and then 4 weeks, we may go 3.5 weeks, then 3.5 weeks to get back to a normal billing cycle in May.
I'm just wondering, why don't we do that like right away, so you don't continue month after month having the bills go up and down in value, because that's going to create lots of extra confusion. Why is my bill going up? Why is it going down? It might be better just to get it out there.
Yeah.
Just a comment. Formatting. What is the issue there, and when do we think we'll have it resolved?
I think we've got the formatting issues resolved. And again, we've got a detailed QC program now implemented. We're pulling a large number of sample bills for any batches go out to make sure that all the formatting issues are resolved.
Okay, so we think that's resolved.
Yeah.
And then the web enrollment is the fourth item. Is that resolved yet?
Yes. Again, it's there's never a specific issue with web enrollment, but getting folks to that traffic or to that site, to the right landing page, ultimately making sure they have the information, they know how to get there. We're trying to improve that. Okay.
So from what I understand here, we've got the customer service issue where we need to ramp it up, and hopefully the outsourcing after a minute will help that, as long as they've got the information and the right scripts and to handle every different situation that is listed here.
That's correct.
And then I also heard you say you'll be doing one last reconciliation to make sure that everything's correct. So same thing. If you've got a set of different scripts to handle each issue, can you also send a different particular script, maybe as an addition to the mailer that applies to that person? So if they had a formatting issue, it'll have a little blurb about formatting. If it also had a web enrollment issue that you can see, okay, here's a little bit explanation of that. I'm just wondering if you can target those messages to the particular issue that the person has. And then the last item is, after all this is said and done, say if you're back on track in May, will you have some way of following back up and helping our clients reconcile that they actually were billed in the correct amount? By that I mean show them a string of when the bills went out, January, February, March, April, and May if needed, and then when they were paid, so that they know that they paid every one of those bills, or they can clearly see that here's the bill that's an issue. Otherwise, I think this, unless we do something like that, I think this could be drawn out past summer. So I'm concerned that we find a way to get this wrapped up as soon as possible, and I wouldn't want to go any further than May. If you've got to reconcile over the next 4 or 5 weeks and solve all the bugs, hopefully the May we don't have any issues going forward. Are we the only client in Arizona right now of Arizona American Water?
In Arizona, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully we can make some good progress.
All right. Appreciate your patience.
I just have one question. Where is the outsourced call center?
It's actually located in Reno.
In Reno, Nevada?
Yeah, and that's just, again, just spillover calls. So if we increase staffing at our local call center for a period of time, if they're not able to keep up, then spillover volume would go to that call center.
Okay. I don't see any other questions. So thank you very much for coming and answering the questions. We do appreciate that. It's obviously been a topic of much discussion in all of our districts and here in City Hall. So appreciate you coming before us this evening.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor, we do have a public comment.
Yes.
That would be David Elridge.
Mr. Elridge. Welcome. If you would identify yourself for the record.
My name is Dave Eldridge. I'm a resident of Surprise.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wolcott, Councilman Hall. I guess I can start by saying I may be problem 6,501. I did pay my double bill at the window with the charming young woman that was there at the window, and I feel terribly sorry for her. The billing issues are still unresolved. I was speaking with people today who are having billing issues today. I appreciate Mr. Choate coming out. If he's going to serve as our whipping boy or whatever his role is, professional apologist, I really don't have much faith in any of this. I want to see some results. And I'm not very patient. The call center thing, this was a new thing for me. This is the first time I've ever had to press 2 at regular intervals to remain on hold. Otherwise, I was hung up on. I had to actually work to stay on hold. That added to a long laundry list of stuff. Finally got disgusted. I couldn't find out where this place was, where they were based, who they were, whatever, and I called the city and found out, wouldn't you know it, that they are right here in the city hall. So I hopped in the truck, came down here, and like I said, the poor woman at the window, so I basically demanded kindly that there has to be someone else that I can talk to with the city, with American Water. So there was a woman who, I believe she said she was a supervisor. She made matters a lot worse. If her job was to fix anything, she did a terrible, terrible job because I was on the warpath when I left. I want answers. I want resolution. I want to be treated better as a citizen. I want to be treated better as a customer. I suggested maybe they work at Taco Bell and learn how mad people can get over sour cream. And then maybe they'll be fit to work with customers. I understand the contract has been extended already to 2020 for American Water. I also understand that it takes the council 180 days to get rid of this contract, and I'm wondering if anybody on the council is willing to do that. I would love to chat with City Manager Wingenroth personally, if I could, please. I want to see action. I have no patience for professional apologists. I want to see action. Let's see. Sorry, I scribbled notes furiously here. The auto pay thing. If you're going to charge me $1.80 to make a payment online, because I frankly am not going to give you access with auto pay to my bank accounts. My wife is already fighting an ID theft thing for 3 years now. I'm sorry, you people are not going to get access to my bank account. So to charge me a $1.80 convenience fee, you're going to have to do a whole lot better at convenience than that. So again, I mentioned I would like to meet personally with the city manager, and I will take no more of your time. Thank you for your questioning.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And yes, Mr. Wiggenroth will actually step into the back of the room to exchange information so you can get a hold of one another, and we appreciate your commentary, truly. That is all. Mm-hmm. All right.
You had about the flavor.
Yeah, I think he's got it. I think he's got it. All right. The next item, please.
Consideration and action to appoint Stephen Wright to fill the Chamber representative on the Tourism Commission with a term expiration of July 1st, 2015.
Councilmember Winters.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Board and Commission Selection Committee, made up of myself and Councilman Hall and Councilmember Rachel Villanueva, we met and interviewed some folks for the opening in the tourism board that we had. And these are specific openings for specific folks. And this particular opening was for someone from the Chamber of Commerce. Ever since Ab Jackson has left, this position has been going wanting. We were very fortunate to find Stephen Wright. He very well qualified for that position. He's a very good professional in this city. He's the vice president of a bank here. And the committee agreed that he would be a great person to put on the tourism commission. And I hope the rest of the council concurs. He cannot be here tonight because he has a previous business engagement. But if the council concurs with the committee, the city clerk will swear him at the next meeting. So I move to appoint Stephen Wright to fill the chamber representative vacancy on the Tourism Commission Board with the term expiration of July 1st, 2015, and to direct the city clerk to issue the oath of office as soon as she gets a chance.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve this position as presented. If there's no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you. Item 7.
Consideration and action authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute an agreement with the WHAM Art Association regarding the use of property located at 16560 North Dysart Road, which is owned by the city.
Madam Chair?
Manager.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the City Council. The item before you has been placed on the agenda at the request of Councilmember Villanueva and Councilmember Hall. And it's, as the city clerk mentioned, is to authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement so that WHAM may stay at their facility for some time to come. Now, all of you probably know more about WHAM than I do, but if you just bear with me for a moment, just a little bit of background. So WHAM is a nonprofit organization that was founded in 2006. They've been located at their offices just on North Dysart Road, just north of Grand Avenue, for the last 3 years. And they've done, I think as all of you know, some substantial improvements, especially in the last year, on their gallery. WHAM's mission is they support, advance, and promote artistic awareness, participation, and expression in all areas of visual arts. They're committed to present programs and special events which foster interaction between artists and the community, affirming an atmosphere that underscores the importance of art in people's lives. And then finally, they're dedicated to the advancement of the arts for educational and cultural enrichment with an emphasis on encouraging the creative process in the Northwest Valley's diverse population. And they serve a wide range of folks. In fact, I'd consider them a very inclusive organization. And some of the folks that they target are veterans, I think folks with special needs, youth at risk, and then probably the most difficult of all to serve are people like me who have absolutely no artistic talent whatsoever.
It's in the eye of the beholder. Come on.
They are very good at that. In your packet, we have a draft agreement, and as I mentioned in the opening, that I believe it would allow this nonprofit that serves, I think, hundreds, if not thousands, of Surprise residents, and provides, I think, a valuable community service to continue to operate on North Dysart, right in the heart of our city, the crossroads, the gateway to our city. And with that, I'll be ready to answer questions and get your direction.
Thank you so much, Bob. And I do want to make something really clear tonight is this is not approval of the agreement. This is approving the city manager to actually negotiate the final agreement. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to make that really clear that tonight we are authorizing you to do that, and I assume that we will authorize you to do that. I just want to take a moment of personal privilege, and I thank Councilwoman Villanueva and Councilmember Hall for bringing this item forward. To me, this is a step, a very important step for the city. Last June, we entered into a similar agreement with the West Valley Arts Council, and that's a big step to revitalize arts in Surprise, and we're very, very pleased to have seen such a positive response at West Valley Arts Council here on our campus. But as a citizen of Surprise who enjoys the arts and who feels very strongly about the importance of arts in our city, I can't tell you how good it feels to go over and spend a day or two at WHAM, which I just did this weekend. And I see a lot of the familiar faces that I shared the weekend with this weekend in the audience. It was a wonderful time to spend with residents of our city of every ability. And that was pretty extraordinary to just watch how every single person is welcome to experience art in their own way. And so, again, I think this is an important next step for improving and bringing arts back to our community. And I think we everyone in the city benefits from this very important organization. So I again thank you, council members, for bringing this item forward. And I recognize now Councilwoman Villanueva.
There. Well, I just want to, I'm just thrilled that we have this organization. What I'm not thrilled is going in there and painting a picture. I don't know what it's going to come out like, but I'll try. I think it's great. I really would like to see it continue. And I thank also Councilman Skip Hall for, just going along with me and saying this is a great thing to have in our city.
Councilmember Winters.
Thank you, Mayor. I too, along with our city manager, very deficient in the producing artwork, but I was out there yesterday and I made a wagon, a covered wagon with a little help. Okay, a lot of help. But I also saw the mayor's butterfly, which I thought was fantastic. And don't let her kid you, she has some talent. It's kind of hidden, but we'll find it. But I'd like to get the president of WHAM up here at the mic and just give us a run through of some of the programs that you have, Mrs. Whitlock. What kind of programs do you run through WHAM, so we get an idea what exactly you do with it?
Madam Chair and council members, obviously you already know me, but I can't thank you enough for, your tolerance of me over the last 3 years either. We aren't just an art gallery or just all about selling art. And from the very beginning, this was my dream, and all these wonderful people behind me have seen the dream also and followed it through. But what we've tried to address is for people to come together through the arts, to get to know each other through the arts. We're inclusive, not exclusive. We really mean that. We've started a veterans class with PTSD where we give free classes to veterans. We have 5 different organizations with people with special needs that we do classes very reasonable. We charge like $10 just for the supplies. Every June we do free classes for any child in the surprise residence. I think a couple of my gals back here, and last year we had over 400 children participate, and those were clay classes. I can't, we're working right now to establish a teen group, and I'm working with your Director Paul Bernardo, thank you. He's such a wonderful person. But he has brought it to our attention that we can get some of his teens. We've come up with a traveling art studio, and the teens already have painted it, and they're calling it Wham on Wheels. The intent is to take it out to the parks, take the art to the people who can't come to the Wham Center. And it also gives those teens who are teens at risk the ability to get involved in the arts and to give back themselves. So again, it isn't just about selling. We have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful gallery that our volunteers did. I mean, we all worked on it. Even I troweled some of the cement. So, but it's such a great feeling because people in the community have come together to do this. So it's and I thank you all for, like I said, your tolerance, your support. And Mayor Wolcott, you are a very good artist. You won't admit it, but you are.
Well, I have to say that my experience was really amazing, and it truly, the beauty of WHAM is that it's very organic, the way things have come together. And that's very grassroots, very from the heart. It's a wonderful experience. I have to say that my friend Marty out here, she's my extra set of hands, and I really appreciate actually everybody's assistance over the weekend. It was really fun. So I appreciate all you do. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Connie.
Councilmember Tandy.
Thanks. I got exposed to WHAM even before I joined council, so a little bit of your earlier days, you introduced me, and I really appreciate that. I'm one of those that really doesn't have talent, but I have many cousins that are actually professional artists, so I do appreciate the art. On this agreement we're looking at, and let me go back to this even before. I understood what the arrangement was. You were working and living in space that was leased by Adelana Health. And one of my concerns then was, well, we got to formalize something so that, you know, they're not out there hanging and don't have the ability to utilize this space. So I'm glad we're moving forward with that. For clarification, I know Adelana was a lease, so a little bit different situation, I think. The agenda says a lease here, but the document says license. Can our city attorney kind of talk about the differences a little bit so we understand?
Sure. A lease usually represents a property interest, and the council has heard me use this analogy many times. Property interests are like a bundle of sticks. You have different right to sell, right to enter, right to use, right to change physical features. Those are all bundles of sticks. In a license, we don't give away any stick in that bundle. A license is simply permission to be on the property. You can have exclusive licenses, which this would be an exclusive license, or you can have a license that's a community of different people can come and use that facility. Right. So this agreement simply is a formalization of our permission as a city for this user to use that facility. Okay. And we've got a lot of similar properties, city properties, that are kind of going through this licensing type of arrangement. I think we did one recently with the HQ. I'm not sure, but the Texcelerator, do we do that same type of thing with them, or so it's a license rather than a lease? Correct. Okay. And with both the HQ and the Texcelerator, there are common areas because there's multiple. Well, with the HQ, they abut our current facility. With the Texcelerator, there are many different licensees, and they have common areas. And so this particular agreement is different in that there is no other shared or common areas. Okay. And are we being consistent with all of the people we're dealing with, or do you anticipate when you negotiate this license that we'll use similar terms? What I'm getting at is are we using the best practices as they evolve? Because some of this stuff is fairly new to us. So are we going to evolve this license so that it covers a lot of the issues as we find them? Because I don't know if we know all the issues, ins and outs yet.
I work, yeah, maybe if you could.
We do want to create some kind of symmetry. In fact, the license that we drafted for WHAM is the license we recently redid for the Texcelerator with some changes because there are differences in use. Principal use differences with the Texcelerator. There is a fee charged, and I know we're going to be working with finance folks and Janine's group to come up with a program for cost recovery for maintenance costs at the Texcelerator, which are significantly higher. The maintenance cost for the HQ is paid by the licensee. Okay. In this particular instance, I believe that the city is anticipating doing the maintenance. So in that regard, there's differences in the circumstances, and sometimes that's based on who the user is and the use that's being put to the building, and then obviously any input that the council would have. Okay. I have some more questions, but I'll save them for let other people.
Councilwoman Villanueva.
Oh, I don't have any questions. Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry.
Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to give a big speech about WHAM because they all know what I think of them. I think they're great. I think it's a great addition to this city. I think that area, that vitality in that area is WHAM contributes so much to it. It's just amazing. So, but my thing is I wanted to address Councilman Tanny's, the difference between the West HQ and the building that WHAM's in is a lot of years. And at HQ, we did the tenant improvements. At WHAM did the tenant improvements. Okay, So they expended tenant improvements for the gallery, et cetera. They got the landscaping donated, they got the parking lot done, all that kind of stuff, where with HQ, I think our budget was, I can't remember, it was a number that we constructed the tenant improvements at city's expense rather than HQ. So it's a little different. Those agreements are different. And then the city attorney pointed out how the Texcelerator is different again, because there's common area and fees and all that stuff. So, but I agree. I think where we can, they should match language, but there are going to be some differences, right? Yeah.
I just for feedback, I agree. I think that we should try to match up as much as possible, just to make sure that we're being fair and even-handed to everyone. Everyone's going to be slightly different, but we do have limited, as a city, we have limited numbers of property, and so we want to make sure that everyone feels that they have a clear shot at trying to utilize some of these underutilized properties. Right. And so I would hope that you would take that into consideration when you look at the final draft of the lease. I'm just gonna leave it there. Mr. Tandy, did you have another comment?
Sure. This is kind of just based out of my experience of being in public sector for a long time. I think we're going in the right direction with this. I think this is exactly what we need for building our community. Mm-hmm. It's a perfect reuse of a facility that we don't really have a use for right at the moment. Kind of like the perfect reuse of the old City Hall for the Texcelerator. Right. What a fantastic thing. But I also do anticipate we're going to be doing an overpass pretty soon. And I'm wondering if that's going to change the nature of that land, and will it be a better use for that land? And maybe we can help WHAM get into something even better than that down the road. So I'm a little concerned about 20 years, and I'll take you back to even going back almost 20 years ago right now. I was remonstrating in front of my council in California about a 20-year, it was a waste management contract. Mm-hmm. And I said that's excessive because lots of things can happen. I didn't think at that time I was going to leave California. I ended up leaving California, going to Indiana for 13 years, and now I've been here for 6 years, and just a lot of things have happened. There were different reasons why they wanted that 20 years. It was basically to help the owners of the trash hauling company to basically sell out for $250 million because they had a long contract. Different situation here. I want WHAM to be involved in our community. Right. But I'm concerned that we would be setting an expectation that, well, 20 years that's the only thing that's going to be happening. And what I anticipate is maybe there's going to be better options. Maybe that's going to be an office building there, and maybe the post office slides in as part of the retail. Maybe there is some WHAM space there, but I think there might even be a better space for them down the road. I have no idea where that is. But my point is I'm reluctant to go 20 years for a variety of reasons. One, I'd rather have more accountability. I think the council should look at it periodically, and I think new leadership. Are you going to be there 20 years? I think the leadership should also be accountable. For those reasons, I think it's better to keep us engaged a little bit in those kind of regular discussions. And I just philosophically, again, don't like to pass something on my watch that not only succeeds my council term by more than one term, but many terms. So probably none of us will be up here by the time it gets to the licensing review point again. So
good luck with that.
Yeah. So don't take it. I'm not committed to WHAM. I really think this is fantastic, and I'm so happy. That was one of my major concerns, is we didn't have some kind of formal agreement going forward to protect them and to protect, quite frankly, the city. That's our job, is to protect the city. It's kind of a two-way street. Yeah. So other than that, if we can do the license similar, learn from the other licenses, and my preference would be we would go for a much shorter term, But then, at least speaking for myself, and I think I'm looking at the rest of the council, we've got a commitment to WHAM. We want the WHAM to be in our city. They serve a fantastic role. But I don't want either one of us to tie our hands and tie our expectations to that's the only place. Some other things, I anticipate the heavy equipment or the equipment fleet management shop won't be behind you pretty soon. So it's going to, again, beg the question, is there a higher, better use for that land ultimately? And maybe it's a tear down. But we just don't know. But I do see that for a number of years, that's the highest, best use for the community. But for 20 years, I don't have that kind of crystal ball.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Villanueva.
Villanueva, thank you. I just want to say that for the present time, I think that we have not a contract, but we need to move on. If we have 20 years right now, maybe in 10 years, something else is going to happen. But I think for the meantime, we need to move on with our contract, or the lease, whichever we want to call it.
Okay.
Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. I think, Bob, the way you and the city manager have drafted this license agreement, I mean, you can make little tweaks here and there, but I think what Councilman Tanny's concerned about, I think you've addressed in paragraph 11, termination and modification. And I think that there will be a time, none of us have a crystal ball, but I see that area being just dynamic. I really do. And maybe, and when it does get to that point that Councilman Tanny's talking about, where the highest and best use really puts pressure on that property, then we make a decision together where to put them in a more advantageous place or whatever. But I think we can handle that. I'm not really. I won't lose any sleep over that one. I really won't.
Councilmember Tandy.
Yeah. I still would like to go for 3 to 5 years and somewhere in that range, because I do have a lot of heartburn with 20 years. And it's more of a upfront disclosure that, hey, there might be something happening, rather than having us blindside, or maybe the next council. Maybe none of us will be up here in 4 years. Maybe the next council blindsides you and has a better idea of what to do, and maybe they won't be as committed to WHAM. So I'm committed to wanting WHAM to be a presence in the city, like to keep that partnership. But again, my public service experience, I've been a long-term CFO in public agencies, and I don't want to set expectations for volunteers, well, just because the document says it, 10 years from now, maybe. I'd rather have it periodically renewed, so 3 to 5 years if somebody else would be willing to join in that.
Councilmember, did you have a?
No.
One thing that I'm hearing is that there is an agreement that we need to have some continuity between all of the agreements that we have with our public properties. So one thing that I would like this council to look at is a policy that helps maybe sort this out, so we don't get into a debate. I don't want to be sitting here negotiating a document here. That's not the purpose of here tonight. Tonight, our purpose is to authorize the city manager to negotiate the terms of the final agreement. So I think it's probably more productive if we agree to approve this item, which is to help Mr. Wiggenroth negotiate the final document, and with some guidance that we are looking for continuity, so that our documents all look very similar arrangements, and would hope that we could also have the council review a policy. I think it might be a good thing to maybe even ask the Committee on Rules to work with the city attorney and the city manager on a policy that addresses the use, because these questions keep creeping up on us all the time, and we're confronted with them at the last minute. So I think a policy on the books would be helpful. So, Vice Mayor, you've got your first rules meeting. I think it would be helpful for you and the Rules Committee to meet and kind of sort through this. But in the meantime, is there any objection for us moving forward and allowing the city manager to negotiate the final.
I moved to authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute a property use agreement with the Wham Art Association.
And I second. Oh, we all second it.
A motion has been made and second to approve this item, which is to authorize the city manager to negotiate a final agreement. Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll.
Unanimous yes vote, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, next item.
Consideration and action on a rezone of property generally located on the north side of Waddell Road and the intersection of Waddell Road and Bullard Avenue from rural residential and general industrial to low density residential, ordinance 2015-03.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council. Tonight, with permission, I have the last two items, 8 and 9, and I'd like to combine it into one presentation. And we will have to have two different actions, one including a public, call to public. So with permission, I will combine those.
Okay.
Before you tonight is the W Ranch rezone and preliminary plat. Vicinity map, this is shown just right above Marley Park along Waddell Road. If you're familiar with Dell's Feed Store, this is adjacent to that. A little bit closer in, showing you this is around the Royal Ranch, Sierra Verde, Marley Park area. A little closer in, Dell's Town and Country is right there along Waddell Road. Behind it is the Great Western Rose Company. And the site is what's outlined in red here, adjacent to Royal Ranch. It's another view from a aerial view showing where this is at, and we are right here. Now, the land use in the general plan shows this entire area as low-density residential, so this change of zoning is consistent with the general plan. General plan also calls out to infill certain properties, and this would qualify for that as well. The zoning is very interesting on this parcel. This is a split zone parcel. It has rural residential and a bit of I2, industrial, in the back there. And you can see it kind of spills over into this property. This is something we inherited from the county, and this will be something that we're going to be able to fix with this proposal. And what we'll be doing is to change that to a straight zoning of an RL5, which is also known as an R15. Just a little outline of what this property is going to look like, and the black and white picture is always not great, so I'll bring up the landscape. You have Waddell Road over here. This is a gated community with 24 lots. In the front, it comes off of Waddell. We do have a turnaround in case somebody comes in, has a mistake, has to go back out. And there's 24 lots, some green areas through here. And also, as usual, all departments are involved with a decision like this, and fire was involved, and we, of course, have an emergency fire access over here to the west into the Royal Ranch community. Just a wall plan showing how this will fit into the area, a little bit more of the visual aesthetics of the property. Now, we did have a community outreach at Marley Park, Heritage Park, on December 17th. No residents did attend the meeting. Since then, I have talked to a resident who will be speaking to you tonight that has some concerns about the project. On February 19th, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of both the preliminary plat and the rezone, and staff recommends approval of the rezone and preliminary plat. And that completes my presentation, barring any questions you may have.
Councilwoman Villanueva?
I don't have any.
No?
I'm sorry.
Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. The retention basin, where is that in the front there, Bart? Where's the retention basin?
This is the retention basin right here.
Right there, okay.
Right.
That's what I thought, okay. All right.
In general, the city of Surprise kind of flows from the northwest to the southeast.
Southeast, yeah.
So it is no different with this
Okay.
property.
And then the wall there on the east wall where it says number 2 right there,
Yes.
I was trying to remember because I was down there a while ago. Is there an existing wall there between Dale's and this property, or is it just open? It's open, huh?
It is open, yes, sir.
Because they got some really interesting equipment over there. Is that wall going to view shed that? Have you seen it?
Yes.
It will.
Okay.
It actually will cover from the residential portion of that, and it'll make the Dale's frontage just a little bit smaller.
Okay.
And as these things develop.
Okay. And the entrance, okay, it's going to be gates that are going to be transponder driven. Okay.
Correct, sir.
And then this front here, where you got that little star, is that going to be a really mature landscaping right in there?
There's going to be landscaping throughout, as you can see in this project. What the star was showing was the signage, which is for the Double Your Ranch project, which I'm circling right here.
Yeah.
So that's where, to identify this particular community.
Okay. I just want to make sure that entrance really pops, as far as a window off Waddell.
Yes.
And because I really like the way these guys have done this with these T lots for this kind of a property. I like it.
It was a difficult project because of the unusual side and infill, and this was a good
okay, thank
resolution.
you.
Councilmember Winters.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Bart. Good presentation. A couple of questions. Is this going to be an age-restricted community?
No, sir, this is not.
And it's going to be a guarded gated community?
I'm sorry?
Guarded gated community?
Yes.
We know how large the homes are going to be here? They look rather large to me.
At this point, these lots are larger, but what will happen, we still have a final plat that'll be coming in. And as that final plat comes in, we're also going to be looking at a home product review, which will look at that product and compare it to the code as well as to the surrounding community.
So will these be different builders or the same builder?
I am only speculating at this point, but this is a small project, and I'm assuming it is one builder. We do have the applicant here to speak if you do. Would you like to?
Thank you.
Councilmember Tandy.
Thanks. On the landscaping plan, I noticed in the front that we're going to have sisu trees right along the sidewalk. Is that correct? Is it better not to have sisu trees near our sidewalks and/or require a root barrier along the sidewalk, 18-inch or something?
Excellent question. Sisu trees, as you know, are a quick growing tree, so it fits in well. In 2009, we changed our code to actually require deep root barriers within anything that's within 10 feet, whether it be a wall, a curb, a sidewalk.
Okay. And then I noticed in some of the write-ups there was some concern from Royal Ranch HOA about the placement of the fire access. Are they satisfied with where it is right now?
Yes, sir. And in the beginning, this was to actually, the applicant wanted to tie into Royal Ranch. Royal Ranch didn't want that, but we were able to discuss and have an access for fire because, as you know, all projects need 2 points of entrance for the fire department. We don't have the easement yet. We do have the letter, which is part of the packet. And when it comes for final plat, we will have that easement, and that is one of the conditions of the approval.
And the last question before we hear from our resident, at least from me, it kind of ties into what I think he's going to ask. 24 homes, do we know what kind of number of trips per day we might be generating out of that?
As with every project that comes to the city, we do have a traffic impact analysis. And with this homes, there was a projected volume that goes out there per day. At the maximum, it would probably be around 30, but you'd have to go right to the traffic report for that. I did discuss this with the traffic engineer before she went on vacation and found that this was so minimal it wouldn't really affect the traffic impact.
Okay. And can you also explain some of the road improvements that will be done on Waddell Road on the other side once Marley Park comes in that might alleviate some of the traffic concerns.
Absolutely. A very good point. As you know, the Waddell Road right now is just the 4-lane road. And development pays for itself as it comes in. So when Marley Park comes in, that will be the Phase 4 project. They will be building that other side of the road, including a median in the center, landscape, sidewalks, lighting. Yes,
okay. And interesting that this is actually a reduction of the industrial area surrounded by homes. So that's I like that. Yeah. So I like industrial where it belongs, but not really so much in between homes.
Okay, any further questions? All right, so this is a public hearing. So at this time, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on this item?
Chad Coster.
Mr. Coster, please approach and identify yourself for the record.
Hello, my name is Chad Kester. I'm a resident in Royal Ranch. My house sits under the L in Royal. So I have a few concerns that he's kind of already greased the skids for me. Thank you. But first, let me just say a number of the residents in Royal Ranch are actually kind of excited about the development. Sorry, I got notes here. I can't live without my iPad. Not the least of which is, of course, some expectation of possible bump in property value, as well as some reduction in some minor crime things that actually come over those walls. Kind of nice to have that filled in. As well as there's actually residents in Royal Ranch anticipating that for possible upscaling from their current residence into that neighborhood. So there is some positive outlook there. However, the traffic situation is a little bit of a concern. We are noticing more frequent accidents at the exit to Royal Ranch out onto Waddell. And I say notice, I don't have the reports and statistics, metrics, etc. But the frequency that we come by and we have to go a different direction, or occasionally the severity is increased. We've even seen medevac have to land in the field to the south of Waddell at least once. I've heard there have been more, but I didn't see them myself. Mainly because the flow of traffic coming through there is increasing. It is the main conduit to get to the theater from one direction, and it is a bottleneck. The road is fully developed on the other side of Bullard, and then it narrows down right near the feed store. So you have full-on developed roads that then bottleneck down right where our exit to the development is, and it's becoming a bit of a traffic hazard. I do understand that our exit may not fall within the realm of the development, but it would be my desire that if you prove it, that consideration be given to possibly, even if it's temporary, put a light in to help it out. There's not a suicide lane there to even pull out and turn into the development, and people get T-bone, getting anxious, and the waits trying to get out sometimes are just frustrating, which leads to people gassing it and getting hit. So that's my concern.
Thank you for your feedback. Appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
No, Mayor.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'll close the public hearing. Any comments from council?
Just a real quick comment. I echo his concerns. I mean, that's kind of why it's important to eventually find a solution to finishing our roads with the medians, because I think that's going to alleviate a lot of this. We have basically built out traffic but not built out streets, so that's something that we as a council need to tackle sometime. I move to approve ordinance 2015-03.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve ordinance 2015-03. Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll.
Unanimous yes vote, Mayor.
Madam Attorney, do I need to reopen public?
While preliminary plats do not require a public hearing, if it has been agendized, we historically do go ahead and have the public hearing. Unfortunately, the way our agenda software is, we didn't really have a choice in reverting back to non-public hearing. So, yes, please.
At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Does anyone wish to come talk to the council on item 9, resolution 2015-18?
Mr. Castro, do you need to speak on this one? Okay. No, Mayor.
No one wishing to speak? Last call. Does anyone wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any comments from council?
I move to approve Resolution 2015-18.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve this item as presented. Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you. Thanks, Bart. Next item is called to the public. Is there anyone who wishes to speak before us this evening?
Yes, the first person will be John Yeager.
Mr. Yeager. Good evening, and if you would identify yourself for the record.
Good evening. My name is John Yeager. I'm the chairman of the Disability Advisory Commission. I'm a little frustrated, and I have nowhere else to turn, so that's why I'm turning to Your Honor and the City Council. Recently, I attended a baseball game at the Surprise Stadium with my wife and 2 guests. And we turned into that little block right by the box office, and we were stopped by a Sundancer who said that the only handicap parking spaces were across the street from the first base entrance, which is a half a block down south of Bullard. I explained to her that I've been here many times before, and I know there's handicap parking by the third base entrance. She says, well, I'm sorry, you can't go through this way. You have to go around, and you have to make a U-turn and go out and go park all the way over there. Your Honor, may I approach to hand out photographs?
Sure.
I have one for each city council.
I'll just take them and pass them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What you have in front of you is a photograph of the Sundancer who I'm referring to. She instructed me to make a U-turn, to go back out and either park all the way by the first base entrance across the street, or if I wanted to go straight to the third base part, I'd have to go back and approach it from the north part of Bullard. So I followed her directions once I saw I wasn't getting anywhere. And as I made the U-turn, I took a photograph, and as you can see in one of the other photographs, that's the photograph of her arguing with the next person behind me who had the same issue. He also had a handicap placard, and he was asking her if he could just park where he knew there was parking by the third base entrance. She instructed him to do the same thing, that the only parking that was available was across the street, down the block, by the first base entrance. So I made my U-turn, and I followed what she told me to do. I had to make another U-turn by that parking lot to go up to North Bullard. And I found one of the other photographs will show a police officer who was very courteous, and he stopped us and the other traffic behind me to help a person who I observed, which is also in the photo, who had a walker, who apparently came from this parking lot that was very far away. He had to rest. He couldn't breathe well, it seemed to me, and he was standing on the corner resting. That very kind police officer stayed with him, and he chatted with him a little bit, and I heard him say, take your time. And then when it was time to, finally he was able to continue, he was able to walk with his walker across the street. That person should have been able to park so much closer. To continue, I drove where she told me to. I made a U-turn up far off of Bullard from the Bell entrance, came down, came into other Sundances who didn't ask me for any kind of placard or anything, and they just waved me on through. It was great. I went all the way down to the end. I made a left turn south back towards the stadium. Lo and behold, when I got to the third base entrance, there was ample handicap parking. Now, this comes from a history. I've had 2 meetings with the people who are responsible for the Sundances. I spoke to the director of the Sundances, and I had a meeting with several other city staff members twice prior to this. They assured me that they would talk to the Sundancers before any special events and games, and they even went ahead and came up with what I thought was a great idea. They said, we'll make little Xerox copies of a map that they happen to have in their office of the city of Surprise surrounding areas. They said, we'll also note on that map, because it changes from time to time depending on the events, like the wine tasting, for example, where the handicap parking is going to be. They moved it far closer to that. So they changed it around, and they said they would make sure that each person had one. This person didn't have one, and I'm very frustrated because I'm very proud of the City of Surprise, and Your Honor, under your administration, we have gone above and beyond, well above and well beyond of what's required to make our citizens with disabilities feel very, very comfortable. And I'm not asking for more money. I'm not asking for more ramps to be built, more people. All of that is in place. We have all of that, and we should be very proud of that. But if the message isn't getting through to them, I don't know where else to turn. I needed to bring this to your attention, and as the chairman of the Disability Advisory Commission, I'd appreciate any kind of assistance you can give us or any kind of direction where I can help to improve this matter.
Thank you,
and I
Mr.
thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Yeager. Appreciate that. And we will make certain that staff has a chance to chat with you. Mr. Wiggenroth will get to you.
Terrific.
Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Yes, the last speaker is Jerry Rooney.
Mr. Rooney, if you would please approach and identify yourself officially for the record.
My name is Jerry Rooney. I'm a retired police officer from the Chicagoland area. Moved here in '91, bought 5 acres out at 219th Avenue and Pell Road. I split it into 3 pieces in '96. In April of last year, I sold 1.25 acres. The city would not give the buyers a building permit. And so obviously there were some things happened when the property got split, and I went through a process that I could not believe. I actually ended the process. I gave the people back their money because it was so ridiculous. I asked to talk to the city manager. They told me that I had to go through a chain of command to get to him. And I said, a chain of command? I'm not an employee here. Why would I have to go through a chain of command? So they started me through a process of talking to people. When it got to the director and the assistant director, I got an email telling me that they all decided that they wouldn't go any farther. So basically stopped me from seeing the city manager. So I called the mayor's office and talked to the secretary to make an appointment and gave them the emails that I was sent. That was on January 29th. They were going to make an appointment with you to call me back. I'm still waiting for that to happen. So thank you for your time. That's all I had.
If you will hang around after the meeting, I'll make certain that that appointment is made. And I'm sorry that you didn't get we didn't get the message. So we'll get back to you. Thank you very much. And Mr. Wiggenroth will step back to the back of the room and also exchange information so that we can further the process. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Our next item is future agenda items. Anyone? Councilmember Tandy. Put your there.
Trying to kind of anticipate. I'm concerned about our American water situation, and I don't know that we need to take action today, but what I would like to ask is that our city manager at least start thinking about RFIs or RFQs or RFPs or even in-housing this service, because I'm not really sure I have the patience to go beyond May in a solution. So I want us to at least not wait till May to do some of the preliminary action. If everything works out and we're happy with American Water in May, then the work we're doing right now, it's it's kind of academic, but it'll also be useful because we'll at least be that much further ahead if we have to go in that direction. But I would just like to see an update from the city manager on what it would take to do that and what the consequences would be and things like that.
I don't think you'll find any fight with that up here. Anyone else? Seeing no one else, then the council reports. We'll start with you, Councilmember Winters.
It's hard, always starting with W, and I always start at A, but that's okay. I want to go back a little bit in my rounds at the City of Surprise to the 25th of February, which was really a great day for the citizens of Surprise when we finally broke ground for Surprise Farms Park. And it was really a great event. I'm really happy for the people, not only just in Surprise Farms, but the people throughout the city. To just think that in 2 weeks, we broke ground for 2 new city parks. And I know at the dedication of the Surprise Farms Park, I thanked a bunch of people, but I want to thank them again because it was really a collaborative effort with the great mayor and the city council, and right down to our employees that set this thing up. Mark Coronado and Donna Miller and their crew, all their employees, this is a great job of pulling this together. Even down to the folks that went out there 5:30 in the morning in the rain to set up this groundbreaking ceremony. I just really want them to know how much that we appreciate it, and I'm sure the people in Surprise are going to appreciate it too. And of course, this past Saturday, breaking ground for Veramonte Park in my colleague's district, Councilman Tandy, and it's another great experience. It seems like we're finally chugging over the hill, and the City of Surprise is finally doing something for the citizens. And I just think it's a great day to say that now instead of one Surprise community park, we have 3, which is really fantastic. When they're all done, of course, it's going to take some time, but I'm just excited about both those parks for the residents. Thank you.
Councilmember Biondo.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. I want to publicly thank Public Works Director Mike Gent, not only for his overall responsiveness, but he's been so willing to meet with some residents. We talked about some traffic safety enhancements. You may have seen him smiling when reference was made to those stop signs with the LED lights. That was a long process with lots of deliberation, and he has been just wonderful in responding to those and being willing to meet with residents. So I wanted to publicly thank him for that. Also read to some classes at Arizona Charter Academy and Countryside Elementary School during Read Across America Week. And lastly, testimony to what can happen when a group of concerned residents meet with city staff and coalesce into a team and get some amazing things done. There's going to be a ribbon cutting ceremony in Sun City Grand for the trail markers that, and that project goes back a couple of years or so. So it's just remarkable how everyone came together, including the residents, our staff, just people generally, to get that wonderful project accomplished. That's all.
Councilmember Tandy.
Councilman Winters mentioned it, but Veramonte Park, groundbreaking this last Saturday. That was kind of nice. I kind of mentioned this is the first project to break ground in District 6 since I've lived here. So it's kind of exciting. But it's also exciting that we still have, we've not more recently, just weeks before, we broke ground on the Legacy Traditional School. If you drive by now, they're going vertical. So the project is moving along real well. Big thing I did in the last week or so with many of the other council members, we went to the National League of Cities conference in Washington, D.C. We had the opportunity to meet with some of our congressmen and our congressman staff, let them know a little bit more about Surprise and what kind of help they can help us with. But that wasn't even the most important. That was important, but we also attended lots of conferences where we actually had the President of the United States attend and actually speak with us. Both Councilman Winters and I were able to shake his hand after he made a jobs announcement called Tech Hire. But the president also brought 7 of his cabinet secretaries out to speak to us in the conferences. And there were probably several dozen of less than cabinet secretaries that he brought along too. Just tremendous amounts of information from economic development to after school programs, just a lot of information in a very condensed period. In fact, I think it's probably going to take me another couple of weeks to really absorb it. But what I have done is I've asked for copies of the charts from all the presentations that are willing to share. And I just got my first set back today on economic development, and a lot of good information that I'll share with the rest of the council and as well as with staff, because I think there were a lot of good ideas shared there. And the only other thing I got just before the conference started, I had a little time before the classes started. I got to do a little bit of touring. I got to get toured through the White House from a former White House staffer, and that was pretty interesting. The only down part about that was we were hoping that our Student Youth Council was going to be there with us, and unfortunately due to weather, their plane couldn't make it in, and so that was really disappointing for me and I think the rest of us, and I'm sure even more so for them. But I hope they will persist and eventually make it out to see the White House in Washington, D.C., because there's so much to learn there. Thanks.
Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a couple of things I wanted to point out and thank the Rotary Club and especially Frank Diaz and his group for the Taste of Surprise that went on last week. I think the mayor made it, and so did Councilman Biondo. It was fabulous. It was like 16 restaurants that were represented, beer garden, a wine tasting. They had 3 different music venues, 2 live and then a disc jockey. And so it was just, and then they had business tents, and it was very well done. I think the total count was over 600 people showed up for the Taste of Surprise. So it's great. That's their 2nd annual, and it's great. I just wanted to point out, I went to the McDOT open house over at Sun City Grand, which stands for Maricopa County Department of Transportation. We all have these communication issues, okay? But I just want to point out, they had a reception guy who was there for you to sign in. And so he was talking to somebody else about all the turnover in McDOT. And I'm a resident of Surprise. What do I care about their problems with turnover? But he's sharing that with somebody. So then he said, so is there some specific project you're interested in? I said, yeah, the Williams Road crossing, low water crossing. I want to see where you guys are on that. And he goes, oh, that's not in the plan. He says, I don't even think that's in the 5-year plan. I said, what? I said, who's in charge here? Well, there's a planner. Go over there and talk to her. So I go over and I say, hey, listen, I'm kind of disturbed. She says, about what? And I said, your reception guy there said, you don't have the Williams Road project in the 5-year plan. She says, that's not true. We're working on the right of way with the mining company. It's progressing. So this was within 15 feet. Okay, you got 2 different stories from McDOT about. Anyway, so I mean, it's not just we've got a communication problem. I mean, there's a lot of organizations got a communications problem. We got to work. All of us got to work on it better. I want to thank Janine Jerkovic and Rick Buss and for setting up a dinner. The mayor and I spent some time with some Canadian businesses who are thinking about coming down here to be in the Tech Accelerator. Really great people, very enthusiastic. And I think they like Surprise. I know they like Janine, and so I think hopefully something will come out of that. But like anything else, you have to plant some seeds and take the weeds out, and over time, and then you get the harvest. You can't just there it is. You got to work on it, and I think that's what Janine and Rick Buss and his team is doing. It takes time. It takes effort, and it takes focus, and I think we need to, although we all want things happen yesterday, we need to give them time to develop so that things will harvest, and so that's all I got. There's a whole bunch of other things going on, as all you guys know, with spring training. We've got every other day there's something going on at the stadium. But I won't go into any of that. But anyway, I just want to, I especially want to thank Rick Buss and Janine and the Economic Development Group. I'm so impressed with the difference that's going on in our Economic Development Department. The vitality, the aggressiveness, they're smart people. They're out there representing the city. I think it's just, I think we got the best economic development team in the Valley. I really do. And we just need to support them and give them all they need. So anyway, thank you.
Councilwoman Villanueva.
It's right there. There you go.
I just want to remind whoever wants to go, tomorrow we have our OTS chat meeting. It's from 6 to 8. We will be having it at the gym. And I understand Jackie's going to be having some maps that we're going to go through and designate some areas that we want to work on. So that's going to be very interesting. I also want to let you know that I really enjoyed Washington, D.C. And it was very, there was so much to talk about. But I also want to let you know that I've been at the ballpark 3 days in a row, including today. Yesterday there was over 8,000 people there. It was amazing. And today as well. So the ballpark is doing very well. Thank you.
Great.
Yes.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I also I went to DC. I have a summary sheet that I'll have sent to everybody on a training session I went to on voter engagement. It's about 4 pages long. I got a lot out of it because it's one of the hot topics for us right now in terms of how do you get people out of their bed and to the polls. And so there's a lot of interesting things that a lot of communities are doing. One of those things that we had talked about with Sherry and Bob and Jody Paul yesterday, Diane Arthur, was the formation of neighborhood associations. Now we have HOAs, but a lot of communities across the country are forming separate, in addition to these neighborhood associations, and they're designed to get more involvement and separate from the business of the HOA, and just it just separate those entities and just community involvement, community engagement. What are issues we're having, and it's been really effective in some communities. So I'll share all that information with everybody.
Okay, well, I just really want to limit myself to talking about the economic development that's going on, because honestly, that is so exciting. And I want to thank Janine and Rick and the whole team for all that's being done. I hope all of you got one of these little pins. And this is the Surprise Canada initiative that we're taking. I think it's really exciting that Surprise is kind of leading the way, and it was really funny because we were the other day at MAG, and the executive director at MAG said, and Surprise is even leading missions to Canada because of what started right here. And Rick and I looked at each other and went, well, that's not the reason, but okay. So we're very happy that we've been able to bring people back, and the group that we met with last week was just so exciting, and I think both Skip and I were really impressed with what they could bring to the table here in Surprise. But bottom line is this. It isn't, I think we've got the best economic development team, Skip. We do have the best economic development team in the state. And here's why I know, because everybody tells me that's not here in Surprise. They recognize it and they acknowledge it to me. And that speaks volumes. So I just want to thank you guys for all you're doing. We've really raised the bar, and that's a real testament to the entire team. Really appreciate that.
I have one more thing.
So Councilwoman Villanueva has one more item.
One thing. We got together to go to a dinner in Washington, D.C., and there was council people from all the west side that went. There was about 30 people that went. And it was a lot of fun, but they were all talking about, it was like friends. It was like everybody was friends, and I really liked the idea. And I came home and I did talk to, what's her name? Elaine? No. Anyway, I talked to somebody here. But I think that Surprise needs to take the lead of getting all the West Side cities and sponsoring something in Surprise just to talk about issues that they have, or just to acknowledge, just the way they were talking at that dinner, like fun things and serious things and things that we could do together. Especially in the transportation area. They were all discussing transportation. And I think it would be nice for Surprise to take the lead to host something like that here, maybe in the near future. It was just an idea. Thank you.
Well, you touched on my favorite subject, and and I think that's something that's well worth discussing. So I'm glad you brought it up. But again, I think everybody's had a busy time. We have a busy time just completing the month of March. And again, thank you, Bob, and to all of your staff for helping us through this evening's important discussions on the budget. And with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. This meeting is adjourned.
Aye.